This is the Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified Podcast with Jake Elliott and Brad Challoner. The hottest storylines and biggest names from the NLL and across the lacrosse world. Now here's Jake and Brad.
That would be the lovely Miss Chantel Chand with our brand new intro here on Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network, where we grow the game one podcast at a time. And another shout out goes to Sakani Baker for the brand new beats on the show as well. I know Sakani was fired up to give us some beats. We are fired up to get them. And everything's kind of coming together. I think we're going to roll out a brand new logo this week too as well, Brad. I'm not positive on that, and that may be a little weird as we record before we release. So I'm hoping when you hear this, there's a brand new logo to go along with it. Brad Challoner, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, brother. Maybe next time we'll rap over Sakani's beats. They're really tasty. I just want to start flowing sometimes, but I will spare everyone of that. Happy to be back, man. You and I got a chance to connect this weekend.
Yeah,
I was doing play-by-play in Coquitlam,
and then I just kind of came in and just shoved you aside.
Adnax and Lakers on Saturday night there. One of my favorite broadcast booths in the West, back in the Palace. And first period intermission, all of a sudden in slides Jumbo. I'm like, okay, you can do play-by-play. I'll slide over New Color, but you're not getting paid. Like this is my paycheck night. So no better place to be on a Saturday night. So appreciate you sliding in there, and it was nice for you and I to get reacquainted on the broadcast. I think we did more time just talking about the state of the WLA and the two teams rather than the play on the floor.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Turned into a hell of a game at the end. I predicted Tyler Digby as the overtime hero, who scored the dagger in 3-on-3 overtime. It was actually a power play goal for Tyler Digby, 4-on-3 in that overtime. As we were both kind of licking our chops, thinking we would get a first chance to see 3-on-3 OT in the WLA, and Coquitlam got a penalty with as the whistle was going to end regulation. So it was 4-3 in overtime for the Burnaby Lakers. Not your traditional power play goal. It was kind of a broken play. Adnax took the ball off the floor.
Seagull,
Tyler Digby was hanging out in the offensive zone. A nice outlet pass, breakaway, one-on-one against Christian Del Bianco, and he beat him 5-hole, I believe. And that was his first goal in the big two games that he played this weekend, returning to the Burnaby Lakers lineup. So Digger lifts the Burnaby Lakers, and you and I reignite the chemistry a little bit.
It wasn't like you weren't expecting me to show up on Saturday night. It's not like I just barged in and was like, hey, I'm here, move over sort of thing. I was in Langley. I was supposed to do that Coquitlam game, but I was in Langley for a 5 o'clock start and just couldn't get there in time, but still wanted to see and do that game. And you're right. It was good to get back together and fire that back up a little bit, get a little practice in before hopefully WLA playoffs and World Championships coming up. And you're right. That was a heck of a game. And how about Christian Del Bianco in that game, man? What did he face? 68 shots, something like that. And
I think he had 50-something saves. And Burnaby's been. Well, we're going to talk to Pete Tellis. Burnaby's been surprising people, and they've been shooting the ball, and they've been averaging over 52 a night through their first 6 games, which is a pretty good number in the WLA, pretty good number in any league. And Christian Del Bianco saw a lot of rubber, and and there's some good pieces there for Coquitlam. And I mentioned on the broadcast too that I think Del Bianco being a Coquitlam now, he is going to be their best recruiter going forward.
Sure.
He's the guy that might be able to bring Challen Rogers and Reed Reinhold and Wes we're supposed to report this year, but he's the guy that's going to bring those guys home because they know when CDB's in the pipes, he's going to give any team a chance to win on any given night. And he was absolutely on fire, but got hung out to dry there in OT and got hung out to dry a couple times. And that's going to be the big thing. What kind of defense can they put in front of Christian Del Bianco to turn this Adnac thing around?
Yeah, and just to add on to there in Coquitlam, and their GM have parted ways. Mike Petrie officially resigning from his general manager position for the Coquitlam Adnax. So they're kind of searching for a new man in charge there in Coquitlam mid-season, which is never a good thing. What do you want to do? You want to get into our Stampede Tech Lax Class weekly report cards here right off the get-go?
Let's get right into them. Let's hand them out.
Okay, we started with F last time, and I think we're going to start with A this time, because I think I want to finish off with F this week. Brad, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with starting with the positive.
Yeah, let's do that this week because the positive is a real positive, and we'll give our A here this week to Coquitlam as a whole. And yes, it is my hometown, and I'm a very proud Coquitlam native, Adnak, all the rest of it. But even if I wasn't in this situation, Brad, what transpired over the weekend in Adnak country was quite exceptional. You had the Les Wingrove banner raising night on Friday, just ahead of Junior Adnak's Junior Thunder, which was a heck of a lacrosse game, 11-10, Coquitlam winning that one, and a real entertaining game between Langley and Coquitlam. But, the banner goes up, everything kind of went off without a hitch, except for maybe the baggie coming off the banner smoothly, but job got done. Banner went up, and tons of kids in the crowd with the Trevor Wingrove Memorial Tournament taking place over the weekend as well. So really good crowd, lots of young kids, lots of American young kids there throughout the weekend, and congratulations to all the gold medal winners and silver medal winners at the Trevor Wingrove Tournament, because that is a really prestigious tournament, one of the best in the country at the minor level. I know the Bantam Adnaks brought home a gold medal. Shout out to my guys Connor and Randy Clough at Extreme Threads who coached that team. But lots of good games going on all weekend. And then the senior game, you mentioned it, a 9-9 going to overtime. Another great crowd there. It was just a fantastic weekend as a whole in Coquitlam with the junior, the senior, and the Wingrove tournament and the banner. It was fantastic to be there.
Yeah, and I don't begrudgingly anymore, but as a player growing up, going into Coquitlam, you knew you were a little bit jealous of the alumni situation that they had there and the pride that they had in the town, and just we got our asses handed to us every single time we went into Coquitlam. Until my final year of junior B, when we knocked them off in the provincial championship in Delta. But
Whoa.
I will say, every other year, you almost went in with your hat in your hand to Coquitlam, thinking, okay, gonna get a good spanking tonight, and then we'll go back home and we'll play a home game next week against Burnaby and have a chance to win, kind of thing, right? And Coquitlam was always so good, and a lot of that was because of the things that Les Wingrove put in place. He was the godfather of Coquitlam lacrosse, Coquitlam junior lacrosse, and just the amount of kids that play in Coquitlam. The minor numbers are fantastic there, so by sheer volume, it's one of the hottest spots. But just the pride and the system that they have in place from mini tyke all the way through to junior A is just so cohesive, and Les was a big part of that. Just see it all come together on one fantastic weekend is great. And, the Junior A Adnaks, which we'll talk a lot about this summer, they've just gone to 10 straight Minto Cup appearances in a row. And I think people forget that there was dark times before 2009 when they started the run,
I was part of that. I was part of that dark time.
All people know of this generation now is the decade of dominance. But before that, it wasn't so much. It's been a testament to what's been built in Coquitlam, and we were watching Daryl Veltman play for the Burnaby Lakers this weekend, and I was reminiscing of when he was on the lefty side with the senior Adnaks with Dane Doby, and there was a great few years there of senior A Adnak ball after that 2007 Man Cup run that they lost at home there. But so I hope to see the senior Adnaks reemerge as a powerhouse in the West too, because that would just mean so much to the community to get those guys back on top too. And there's a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened that way. They haven't been able to protect guys like they do in the East. And what would the senior Adnaks look like if they were able to protect two junior A graduating Coquitlam native boys every single year? That club would be at the top of the Western Lacrosse Association year after year. So I hope to see things turn around, and I think it will going forward, and the guys will be thinking about Les for doing it. So as a Delta guy growing up, always admired heading into Coquitlam.
Well, I appreciate that, and let's not forget, Coquitlam was a team that used to bring guys out from the East like Josh Sanderson, John Grant, Colin Doyle, Brody Merrill. These guys all wore Adnak uniforms back in the early 2000s, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. Let's move on, because that was a long A right there, Brad. Lax Class for Weekly Report Cards brought to you by Stampede Tack, by the way. Complete source for boots, hats, belts, jeans, and anything country. They ship Canada-wide. Located in Cloverdale since 1967. Shop online at stampede.ca. Shopping online, still shopping local. We were kind of chatting with our with our man Kevin Michael Winkler from Stampede Tech. He says he's got some Wrangler t-shirts he might do up a little Lax Class style, so we'll look forward to that. We got some giveaways that we want to do for Stampede Tech as well. We're going to give away Thunder tickets. We're going to maybe give away some cowboy hats as well, and we just got to kind of figure out how we do that, Bradley. But we'll figure that out maybe this week. We'll just give away Thunder tickets. We'll ask something easy and at least give away some tickets and then figure out how to start giving away some prizes here moving forward. B, I'm going to let you take this one, but it's the other guest we're going to have on the show this week. We didn't mention that, is Smokin' Pat Gregoire, who, of course, is with the Lacrosse Flash, but also made a weekly appearance on the Off the Crossbar podcast. But Teddy, I think, is shutting down for the summer, and I really enjoyed Pat's commentary so much that I reached out to Pat and said, hey, like, if you're not doing anything, why don't you be our Eastern correspondent throughout the summer here on Lax Class and keep us kind of up to date on what's happening through Junior A and Senior A in Ontario, maybe even a little Junior B as well, as Patty Gregoire coaches the Ironheads back there. But he was kind of the first one to let us know coming out of the gates here. Burnaby, I think, has been a big surprise in the WLA out of the gates at 5-1. But on the other side of things, Coburg has been just as impressive. They lost last night, but still for Coburg to be 3-1 at this point of the season, I think has got to be a win for them. So Burnaby and Coburg, a bit of a surprise, get our B letter grade here.
Yeah, they get the B because, they were both sort of surprising out of the gate. You expected New West and Maple Ridge to be successful in the West. You expect Six Nations and Peterborough to be successful in the East. But Coburg jumping out to a 3-1 start led by that Killen kid, Kyle Killen. Cam Milligan putting up numbers on that righty side for the Coburg Kodiaks, and Kevin Orleman shutting the door. So they are 3-1. They get our B this week. And the Burnaby Lakers, same sort of story. A lot of new faces in the lineup for the Burnaby Lakers. They've lost a lot in Justin Salt going to New West. Not sure if we're going to see Matt Beers this year, but they replenished the coop with Ryland Reese and Graydon Bradley, who both had fantastic weekends, and Robert Church in the lineup early in the season is a man possessed right now and on his way to through an MVP caliber type season. So two teams off to sort of surprising starts. They get our nod for the B.
That would be Bar Down Bobby Church we're going with now, right?
Bar Down Bobby Church. Yeah, we coined that together on Saturday night. Let's stick with it.
I like it. I think that's going to stick.
We'll ask Pete Tellis if he'll trickle it down through the lineup later.
And it doesn't really matter if Robbie Church likes it or not. We're going with Bar Down Bobby Church. Let's move along here in Lax Class Weekly Report Cards. C is up next, Bradley, and this C is always a bit of a tricky one because it's not something that's super great. It's not something that's a negative. It's just kind of there, and we skipped over it last week. We flat out forgot to get to it, quite frankly. So this week here, our C letter grade will go to the NLL Awards.
Yeah, the NLL Awards came out right after. I think I got the press release in the last couple minutes of us recording the show last Monday. So we didn't forget. I think it just sort of trickled in a little bit late. But the nominees are out. The top 3 finalists for each of the NLL Awards.
Any you got a problem with?
And the C, we give it the C because it's okay. Like, I think they got most of these right from my perspective and from your perspective. The only thing that jumps out to me that makes this a C grade and not a B or an E grade is Pat Merrill not up for the Les Bartley Award. I think he did amazing things with an expansion San Diego Seals team. Yes, he's nominated for GM of the Year, but I think what he did behind the bench almost
who would you take off the list?
Not more impressive.
Who would you take off the list to put Pat Merrill on?
I'd probably take Matt Sawyer off the list. JT and Rich Kilgore are on there for Buffalo. They get to the finals. They did great things. Kurt Malowski, the mastermind of the NLL champion, he's on that list too and probably the winner. But, Matt Sawyer's Toronto Rock, I think they had an up-and-down year. They had a 6-game win streak. They closed out strong, but they did not look good in the playoffs, and their offense really never got away from that stagnant outside perimeter game that they were known for all season long. So, yeah, if you're swapping anybody out, maybe you pull out Matt Sawyer.
But this, just so you know, this is for the regular season. The playoffs and championship are not taken into consideration when handing these awards out, correct?
Well, it obviously goes into... I don't know if they voted on these or not yet, but I think people are obviously going to be thinking about those things when
Speaking of voting, Brad Challoner, for every year that I have been involved with the National Lacrosse League, I have always gotten to place my vote for the Tom Borelli Award as a media member. This year, we did not get to do that, and it perturbed me a little bit, quite frankly.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
I'm just kidding. I didn't either.
Okay. No, don't do that to me.
That was the first. I don't know who's voting on the media person of the year. I always like it when peers are voting, but Bob Chavez, our man Tyson Geik, and Barstool Jordy get the nominees for NLL Media Person of the Year. Everything else looked like Rookie of the Year, Ian McKay, Matt Rambo, Austin Stotts. You could probably put Kyle Killen on that list.
Sure.
No, he played less games than all those guys, but made a huge impact whenever he was. Defensive Player of the Year, Graham Hossack, Steve Priolo, Kyle Rubish. No-brainers there. I know you were a big Mike Messenger fan.
He's got it, yeah. I mean, if he's not third, he's fourth.
Transition Player of the Year, Zach Currier, Challen Rogers, Kyle Matisse. That's up for debate. Is he or not a transition player?
Wow.
Should he be up for this award?
Listen, I'll say...
That guy had a lot of front gate. He had a 6 stat line. Like, he led all forwards. If you're going to call him a forward, he led all forwards in loose balls and CTO.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. But, he was rolling out of the front gate majority of the season.
And I love the Moose. Don't get me wrong. He's been on the program, friend of the show. Listen, if you're going to... Okay. You don't have to go over the top here. Like, Paul Day is been very crafty. I will say this. Playing Kyle Matisse out of the back gate for 6-7 games, whatever it was, so he could qualify him, protect him, if you will, in the expansion draft as a transition player and not take up one of his offensive spots. Yeah. Now, for that to happen, the commissioner has to approve that Matisse is actually a transition player and not an offensive player, which I believe he will do, and I'm okay with it. But to put him in the conversation for Transition Player of the Year, I don't know if they're doing this just to make it look good. They don't need to do this. There's better.
Well, it looks a lot better for the expansion list that'll come out and have him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
you need to go that far.
Player of the Year. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You don't need to go that far.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyways.
Goaltender of the Year, Christian Del Bianco, Matt Vince, Dylan Ward.
Who you got?
Well, we're going if you think it's regular season without taking playoffs into account, I think it's Matt Vince's year. Had the best year of his career statistics-wise at the age that he has is unbelievable. His most win total in the season. I think his best save percentage in the season. It was crazy stuff from that. Most minutes, too, I think.
Del Bianco, most minutes.
Well, most minutes for Vince in his career.
Yeah, no, he had a heck of a season. I just, it's tough because Del Bianco wins the championship, but like I said, this is regular season stuff here, and I don't think there's any denying Matt Vince will win number 7. Brad, we got to move on here. So NLL awards get our C letter grade. Oh, there was one other category that I know you wanted to mention.
MVP looks good. Dane Dobie, Lau Thompson, Matt Vince. I think Dane Dobie's your no-brainer there. Executive of the Year. So a lot of these real behind-the-scenes folk in Toronto, Philadelphia, and Buffalo. I think you could have put someone from the Vancouver Warriors staff under Executive of the Year based on what they did. Building a franchise, essentially, rebuilding and rebranding a franchise in a short time period. Like, man, it was just June when Canuck Sports Entertainment got announced for purchasing the Stealth, and between June and September, they'd had a name, they'd had a jersey launch. By the time November rolled around, they had a good idea of what their game day presentation was going to look like, and I was blown away by what they pulled off at Rogers Arena this year in that short period of time. It's only going to get better. The in-game presentation was phenomenal. Best broadcast crew I've ever worked with inside there at Rogers Arena.
Whoa!
You need to go out on a limb and say that. Paul Bertel and the crew.
I'm not
did an absolutely fantastic
I'm
job.
not on that crew, Brad. You know that,
right? They turned that ship around, and I think a lot of good went down behind the scenes for the Vancouver Warriors. Yeah, maybe not so much on the floor. They did get the record improvement. I still think they look at their regular season this year as a success, and 100% of a success off the floor. So would like to see someone from CSE on there.
Okay. Yeah, I can get down with that because I do know how difficult it is to launch a franchise in that short amount of time. Like, you think about San Diego and Philadelphia and the lead-up time that those two franchises had compared to what Vancouver had. And, yeah, granted, they had a roster in place, but that's not an easy undertaking to do. And I think for a first year, a lot of things to build off there in Vancouver. I might disagree with you on the entire broadcast thing, though. Bradley. Let's move along here. Our D letter grade, and this happened over a week ago now, but again, we missed it last show, and I think it needs to be addressed. And you know, when we're handing out letter grades that you don't normally want to get, well, I mean, it's not easy for us to talk about them either, but there are things that need to be said, and our D letter grade is going to go to Kevin Reed for his actions against Robert Church just over a week ago in Maple Ridge, where the score, I think, at the time was about 10-3. There was about 5-6 minutes left in the game, and I never did see what started it, and I don't think anything really prompted it, but Reed just kind of grabbed Rob Church and took him to the woodshed and ended up getting a 3-game suspension out of it, but this is the type of thing, Brad, that is keeping guys out of the WLA and playing summer ball for fear of something like this happening to them. Yeah,
and we saw it with Church getting frustrated, I think, with it was Ishikawa on Saturday night. And that's why, you know, you've heard Curtis Dixon be outspoken about it. Jordan Hall still has my favorite quote of all time that I say all the time. He once told Steve Ewan in the province, playing in the WLA takes years off the end of your life. And when you are a superstar player, 100% it does, because, you know, Church isn't used to taking those extra hack and whacks when the referees aren't looking, or after a whistle, or, you know, just when he's cutting through the middle. There's way more stick work in the WLA, and it frustrates the heck out of the superstar players that make their living doing this outside of the summertime, right? So you want to see those guys in the league, you want to see those guys protected, and the guys that are taking advantage of that need to be phased out and need to go away. And I think we have seen a transition over the last few years of those type of players rolling out, you know, but it's given Maple Ridge a black eye when they don't need it. They've turned so much of that franchise around over the last couple of years, and I know Kevin Reed is a great guy, and there's a great heartwarming story floating around about him last season when he got asked for an autograph after a game, and, you know, kind of said, "Why me?" to a young player, and so guys still look up to Kevin Reed in that fierceness, but, you know, you got to protect the star players, and kudos to Paul Del Monte for doing just that and protecting the star players right now, sort of sending a message. But, D letter grade for Kevin Reed.
Yeah, and like, I've known Kevin Reed a long, long time, and Kevin Reed is not a very well-liked person across the league as far as players go that play against him, and that's, you know, that's a feather in his hat, but sometimes Reeder just takes it too far, and some guys just have that snap factor where they can't turn it off once it goes on, and I think he's one of those guys, but that crossed the line, and it's not the first time he's done it, and hopefully it is the last time he's done it, because there's just no room in the game for it anymore, and for a guy that I like, I just hate to see him tarnish his career with doing things like that. Pete Tellis is waiting to get on the line here, Brad, so let's get to our F. If you haven't seen it by now, there's a video circulating around the internet of a senior C lacrosse brawl. I don't know if I want to get too much into the specifics. It's not a good look for one particular coach on a bench who you see kind of tap a player to get onto the floor. And I think some context needs to be put in here, Brad, where this is a senior C game, for one. And the fact that this is happening at the senior C level is a complete and absolute joke. These two teams should be ashamed of each other, embarrassed for themselves, and this cannot happen at this level. Now, why this happened, from what I hear, and I'm still getting details on this, there was a 5-on-3 power play for Port Moody. A Maple Ridge guy kind of started a scuffle. Two guys got locked up, and while they were fighting, another Port Moody player sucker punched a guy while he was on the ground without a helmet on. That prompted two Maple Ridge players to leave their bench, who don't have a coach because it's senior C. So they jumped the bench onto the floor to even up the manpower. The Port Moody coach, who will be left unnamed because I don't want to bury the guy, tapped the player on the shoulder and said, go on the floor. Now, that gave them an extra player. I still, by watching this video, Brad, and you've seen it, there is all sorts of crap going on the floor. It's hard to tell because both jerseys are dark, because it's senior C, and they have the same color uniforms. One team doesn't have a coach. I don't know what the officials were doing, but this got way out of hand, and now some guys are in some hot water, and It's Senior C. Give your head a shake. These guys are going out to play lacrosse to have some fun, get some exercise, not get their melon punched in.
No, and that's exactly it. And I don't know why you're so shocked that you keep saying Senior C. Like that, I played in that league for 3 summers, and the last game I ever played, I played for Delta. We were playing against, I think it was North Shore. I don't even remember now. But I got headbutted in the third period of a close game. I think I was cutting through the middle. My defender just smoked me on the chin with his helmet, full-on egregious headbutt, split my chin open. I'm like, I got to go to work the next day, man. I'm like, I got little kids at home. Like, I don't need to. I'm just out here to drink some beer and chuck the ball around and have a good time. I don't need this. And that's sort of what that league has become. And it sucks because, until...
That's not what the league should be, though. That's not what that league should be.
What should it be then?
It should be a friendly like they were talking about, the game was for first place, and that's why guys were going so hard. It's Senior C.
Well, that's what I mean. It should be about fun. Drinking and having it. It should have a Masters vibe.
It shouldn't be about line brawls and wanting to win the game so badly. Yeah. Like, it's crazy.
For some, my theory about, like, I played an ultimate Frisbee league, and I almost put it the same way, and slow pitch too. Like, you got 2 types of people that play in these type of leagues, right? One is guys who played growing up that just want to have a good time and get out there and still chuck the ball around and hang out with the guys, right? The second group is people who either never played before or were always on the cusp and always played like that, and now they have a place to take it extra seriously against half people that don't give a crap at that level now. And those are the guys who cause the trouble. And yeah, it's brutal because, you don't see that. And there's contact in that league too, which is the other crappy thing. Like, I played in that league because I was too young to play Masters. I still wanted to play,
right?
But I was too young to play Masters. I don't need to go out there and still take the punishment that I was taking when I was 21. I don't need that in my early 30s. Yeah. But that league has contact in it, so you get the stick work and you get the idiots that take it too far, and then it's on steroids, right? So yeah I think to get rid of that, I think you take contact out of Senior C. And you have almost a Masters league for people that are 21 to 33 that can't play Masters yet, but also don't want to play, don't have the commitment or the time commitment or even the skill to play Senior B or Senior A.
I think that's a great idea, Brad, and I really hope they implement it because, I think it's a useful league. Like, there's nothing wrong with guys wanting to go out and get in a run, but they shouldn't have to fear for some junk, garbage crap happening like that. And honestly, I don't condone what he did, sending a player on the floor. I don't condone a guy getting sucker punched but you got to be smarter than that. All of them should be just ashamed of themselves, that thing. And the really disappointing thing about all of this is that this type of shit is what is going to get attention from the mainstream media instead of the fabulous lacrosse that gets played on any given night here in the Lower Mainland or across the country. But when something like this happens, this is what gets picked up and talked about, and that's what drives me nuts.
Yep, I agree 100%.
All right.
Disrespectful to the creator. We give them our stealth class. Ooh,
wow.
I'm in an old pattern right now.
Edit.
We give them our lacrosse classified F this week.
Giant F.
Do better next week for our report cards. Okay, let's get to Pete Tellis.
Let's get to break.
Positive right now, 5-1 Burnaby Lakers in the West.
Man, I got to calm down, too. I got to calm down a little bit. Pete Tellis, head coach of the Burnaby Lakers, is on the other side. You got it right here on Extreme Threats, Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Pure Vita Labs is proud to bring you the highest quality sports supplements on the market. PVL products are 100% all-natural with no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. And the entire line is also Informed Choice certified. We designed all our products with the athlete in mind. We look forward to being a part of your athletic achievements, helping you push the bar higher, win at the highest levels, and set personal records for years to come.
Hey, this is Dan Carey, the general manager of the Rochester Nighthawks. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars. Growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Thanks to our friends at Pure Vital Labs. Saw Rob Leone up at the AdNext game on Saturday night and had a good chat with him. Lots of things happening at PVL throughout the summer. They're sponsoring everybody, including us right here at Lacrosse Classified. Find them at pvl.com. Informed Choice Certified, all natural supplements. They are the best. Find them, pvl.com, at Pure Vital Labs. Give them a try, and you won't be disappointed. Speaking of not disappointed, as I look for a segue to introduce our next guest, this man has to be not disappointed. That doesn't make any sense, but I'm going with it anyway as Pete Tellis joins us on the podcast, head coach of the Burnaby Lakers, who are 5-1. Got to be pretty pleased with that so far here, Pete.
Yeah, we're extremely pleased with how we started off the season so far at 5-1.
What do you think the keys to your 5-1 start have been?
Yeah, you know, we were fortunate this year to have a strong preseason camp, and we had good numbers showing up. And you know, we've been kind of just going at it one game at a time, not looking too far down the road, and going in there with an objective to get 2 points each night. And for the most part, we've been looking to do so.
Now, when you took a look before the season started, Pete, you see obviously New West making deals and Victoria bringing in guys and Maple Ridge getting in on, you know, bringing in the imports. You know, when you watch those acquisitions go down, like what goes through your mindset heading into the season? Is it like, okay, these guys are loading up, this is going to be a tough season, or is it just focusing on what you guys are doing and, like you said, two points at a time?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to ignore when you see all those other teams going out and announcing their signings. We didn't really announce too much of ours. We had some of the returning players coming back, but you know, we kind of kept that within our house. And then just kind of concentrated on who's been at the rink each night. Like, if we're at practice and we're worried about those 20 guys who are out there at practice at night, and continuing to get those guys ready and get them better for the season.
But new faces Jumbo, few new faces do roll in year to year. And we talked about this with Mike Mallory last week with the faces in Maple Ridge, and he's saying that they kind of run a pretty simple offense to start the season off because there is going to be a lot of new faces. But how do your guys, Robert Church and company, adjust to new faces coming in every week?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, obviously, but we're lucky that some of their faces, you know, for example, we had Digger come in this weekend and Eli Mclaughlin, and they've been with the club for numerous years. They've been playing with guys like Churchy for a long time. So it takes a little bit of time before the game or the practice before just to reconnect with those guys and get them on the page that we want. But yeah, you know, managing the schedule throughout the season, it's difficult, but it's just part of the beast in the WLA.
Have you seen Eric Penny play better goal than he is right now, Pete?
Man, he's playing awesome. You know, I talked to Penny the other week, and I knew he was ready for the season. I watched him one time in the NLL, and I told him the other week, like, I saw it in his eyes that he was ready to play, and for that starting position, I thought he should have played a lot more in Vancouver. But I'm extremely happy with the way he's been playing for the Lakers thus far.
Yeah, I've never seen him play with such confidence. He's so cool and calm, and that must just trickle through the entire defense, and it's been nice to see. And I think that's a big part of your 5-1 start, Pete. Another reason for that is Robert Church, who we usually don't see in late May and early June.
Bar down Bob Church.
Bar down Bobby, we coined him on Saturday night. But, you know, how obviously huge to get him in the lineup early in the season. But, you know, and Jake said he looks like a man on a mission or a man possessed right now with a chip on his shoulder based on what happened in his NLL season. But have you seen Robert Church play better lacrosse?
No, not for a while. And, you know, last year was my first full-time year with the Lakers, and we didn't get him back till probably another week or two away from right now. So we've been, you know, unfortunate for Churchy, but fortunate for the Lakers. We've had him in the lineup, and he's been nothing but a treat for us, and he's been doing really well leading our offense.
Speaking with the head coach of the Burnaby Lakers, Pete Tellis here on Lax Class, and for folks that don't know, Pete, like we go way back. You were actually my ball boy in junior lacrosse, so we go way back.
It's like 1992.
Yeah, 93 maybe. It was
93, 92, 93, yes. Yeah.
It was a while ago. And then, of course, we spent a long time together with our beloved Beer Hunter lacrosse team, our field lacrosse team, and we've done some coaching together as well over the years for junior lacrosse and what have you. But with all that being said, Pete, like you are, for me, are kind of one of the guys that's on the cusp of one of these up-and-coming coaches that's kind of knocking on the door to get himself onto an NLL bench. What is it about coaching that attracts you to it, and how would you kind of define yourself as a coach?
Yeah, Jumbo, we've been around for a while, coaching together. I've been doing this for a while, and I really enjoy it. When I stopped playing, I was looking for a way to get out of the house every once in a while, and coaching fit that bill. But yeah, I'm attracted to it. I've done it for such a long time that it's second nature now. And as regard for the NLL, that'd be great. But right now, my concentration is on our summer team. And getting us towards Mann Cup.
Yeah, I know you're a very detailed guy, and we've had some long nights where we just kind of sit and draw plays on paper and talk about what would work and what wouldn't work. You're more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy, and with that said, you got a pretty good supporting cast there in Burnaby with Julian, Kolb, and Kyle Sorenson. How valuable have those guys been to you?
Oh, the whole club has been huge, coming right down from our executive in Ed Patrick and Bill McFedridge, and Kevin Hill as our GM, and Julian helps out with that as well. And they've been first class. And then with Kyle, it's such a treat. I've coached with many different people, but Kyle is definitely probably I'd say the best coach that I've ever coached with. And he's got such a handle on the defensive stuff that we just leave it to him. And then I'd work more with the offense. And so far it's been working well for us.
How about the culture there in Burnaby, Pete? It was Swamp Lax for so long, and culture carriers like Dolly Wall and Scott Jones and Jackson Decker, and I know Dane Stevens is still there, but some of those guys that really created that culture over the last few seasons are on the outside looking in now, or are not playing anymore. How much Burnaby was always known as a real tight-knit group. Who are sort of the culture carriers now, and what does that room feel like?
Yeah. The Swamp Blacks is still carrying on, and there was, like you said, the guys like Dolly Law, Decker, Stevens, they ingrained that into the team. Last year there was a lot of turnover on our team, and it hurt us in the standings. But what they built is sustained with the club. The dressing room this year is really tight. The guys are getting all along well, and it's from those guys who have put in the work a decade ago of establishing that, and it's been able to carry through. So the dressing room has been great. We feel it's a really good group and a real special group. So it's nice to see. It's a little change from last year, since we had so many new faces last year. It took them a while to get comfortable, but now with a lot of these guys in their second year or returning again, we're able to take those big leaps and gains that from last year.
Last one here for me, Pete Tellis, and you mentioned a lot of new players, a lot of players in and out of the lineup and changing pieces. And Brad and I really talked about that on the air, that it's not just in Burnaby, but I want to get back to it, but it's all teams really in the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season. You're going to see a ton of faces in and out of the lineup, and it's really hard to kind of get the chemistry and continuity going when you have that many moving pieces early in a season. But I want to bring it back to Burnaby, because I saw a guy that hadn't played all season long in Eli Mclaughlin on the roster on Friday night when I was in Coquitlam. Brad was calling the game, but then I made it to Coquitlam on Saturday night and was excited to see Eli play on Saturday night, but he wasn't there. What's the situation with Eli Mclaughlin?
Yeah, Eli's kind of got. He missed some of the season at the beginning of the season with an injury carrying over from the NLL. He's kind of in and out during the season this year. But I know he was there Friday. He wasn't scheduled to play Saturday. We're back at practice on Tuesday. I don't know if he got banged up in the game or not, but we'll get a full recount or full update at practice. All our guys come out on practice on Tuesday nights, So we'll find out from there. I'll talk to the trainers, and we'll see if he got injured and how bad it was.
I just want to ask about a couple of those new faces. I think Graydon Bradley really stood out in the games that I've seen Burnaby play so far this year, Pete. And I know we've just seen 2 games from Ryland Reese, but he looked really good on Friday night, and especially playing with Bradley. I know they've got some built-in chemistry from that Minto Cup run, but they were sliding together and had a couple double team options where they're attacking the guys from Maple Ridge. Just what are those 2 guys going to mean in the future of this club?
I think they're huge, right? Ryland Reese, he's only got in 2 games, but the more he plays, the better he's going to be, and especially the more comfortable he gets. Kyle's a huge fan of him, and then when we were able to draft Reese, we knew that Graydon Bradley would be about there around the 7th pick, which we got from New West. And when we were able to get him, the pick made total sense. Reese and Bradley are best buddies. They carpool to the games together, and I've always found from WLA having that goes a long way. That helps bring guys back, play those extra 2-3 years in the season later on in their career. And then we also were able to get another good Poco guy in Brody Gillespie, who made his first appearance on Saturday night and played terrific for us.
Scored a goal.
Yeah, scored a goal. Was a loose ball hound, got the heavyweight belt after the game.
I saw that.
What a pleasant surprise, and what a great job for Brody to take advantage of the opportunity that he was given.
Well, I'll tell you what, Pete, before I let you go here, you're going to have to maybe give some coaching tips to the beast, Ryland Reese, because I heard a little birdie told me that during the Wingrove tournament, Ryland might have got himself kicked out of the game as a coach on the bench. So maybe he needs to control his emotions a little bit there. Maybe the head coach can help him out with that.
Yeah, I'm sure we could have a little bit of a chat.
Okay. Well, hey, Pete, congratulations on a fantastic start here to the year. A third of the way through, atop the standings. Long way to go, but continued success with your Burnaby Lakers, and I'm sure we'll see you around the rink sooner than later.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jumbo, and I'm sure I'll see you around. Thanks a lot as well, Brad, for having me on.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon.
Our pleasure. That was Pete Tellis, head coach of the Burnaby Lakers, Brad Challoner, and like I mentioned, one of the young up-and-coming coaches in the sport of lacrosse. And I've been around Pete for a long time. I've been close with Pete for a long time, so I know how good of a coach he is. And he's only going to get better from here, but he's got his Lakers buying in, and they're playing well.
Yeah, and he mentioned Kyle Sorenson and Julian Kolb there. That is a great bench, and those 2 are going to combine together to coach the Austrian national team at the World Indoor Championships. But I like seeing Kyle Sorenson in action. He's a fiery coach, and that's another guy who could be a head coach in the league or a league somewhere.
And I don't know if you noticed or not. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been giving Julian the gears for wearing his red snapback hat on the bench backwards on the Laker bench while he's coaching. And I think I finally convinced him to do the right thing and take it off while he's coaching Senior A lacrosse. Saturday night, no red hat on the bench. So give him enough gears, and he finally caved in for me. And
I say whatever makes you feel and look good, you rock it, you represent. So, Julian, you want to wear that red hat, we'll see you to the Swamp on Friday night against Coquitlam.
Coming from a guy who's never coached a lacrosse game.
But I'm also wearing a backwards hat right now.
Yeah, but you're not on a WA bench is my point, Brad Challoner. All right, let's get to break. We got the man smoking Pat Gregoire on the other side. Can't wait to talk to my man, Patty Gregoire. We'll do that next, right here on Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Serving the business and sports community since 2018, Extreme Threads provides custom design apparels around the world. Specializing in lacrosse, they deliver exceptional quality and service, customizing box and field team apparel and uniforms. Extreme Threads offers free design work and takes the time to ensure you get exactly what you need for your team or club. Contact Extreme Threads at sales@extremethreads.ca for your custom apparel needs today.
Hey, this is Josh Byrne of the Buffalo Bandits and Chaos Lacrosse Club. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified, Lax Class. You just heard from our title sponsor right there, Extreme Threads. Man, let me tell you about these guys. They got a brand new warehouse in Port Coquitlam. They are cranking out swag for all sorts of teams. Seneca, they got the Mohawks back there. They're doing all the junior teams, all the WLA teams throughout Alberta, up in the Okanagan. They're over on the island up in Campbell River. They're doing companies apparel now. These guys are the best. Check them out at sales at extremethreads.ca. And then once you do that, just mention my name. Do it, and you get free stuff. That's that simple. Extreme Threads. Customize your team with Extreme. Do it. Pat Gregoire, I don't know who makes the Ironheads jerseys, but you might want to check out Extreme Threads as well. Welcome, Smokin' Pat Gregoire, to the podcast. He is the head coach of the Ironheads, but also a member of the Lacrosse Flash, and will be our summer Eastern correspondent here on Lacrosse Classified all summer long, keeping us up to date on what's happening in the OLA and the MSL. Pat Gregoire, welcome back to the podcast.
Feels good to be back, boys. I'm glad that
got you choked up a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm getting emotional here. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm glad you guys are having me on back as your Eastern representative. And I mean, it's been early on in the summer here, but there have been some pretty cool storylines. And I mean, I love the National Lacrosse League. It's sad to see it go, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not fired up for summer ball. So
we're ready to have a summer, man. I think we have to work on a shampoo sponsor now that you're going to be contributed here.
What do you go with, Pat? What's your go-to? You go with the 2-in-1. What do you got going on?
You know what? I have a little bit of shampoo, conditioner as well. The 2-in-1, I'll kind of stay away from that.
Okay.
But to be honest,
I have no idea
what brand. Which, yeah, to be honest, what brand I use, pretty much whatever my mom brings home from the store. So, I'll be honest.
Oh, man, that is about as honest as it gets right there.
Yeah, love it. I know Jumbo just uses the bar Zest on his head, and he's good to go.
It's Ivory, thank you.
Baby smooth. Well, Pat, first question, I guess, then, is Coburg for real? We talked about them off the top. They're 3-1. They've had a pretty hot start. They get in some trouble against Peterborough this week, but are they legit? Can they keep winning games going forward?
You know what? I definitely think that they are going to be a team that's going to contend for that fourth spot. You look at, obviously, Peterborough. You look at Oakville, and, of course, obviously, Six Nations, who have kind of stockpiled their team after what was kind of seemed as a disappointing season by their standard. It's going to be tough to knock one of those three teams out of the top spot. But I definitely think this is going to be the best Coburg Kodiak's team that we've seen since they've switched over from KW, and probably some better than some of those teams as well. They're young, they're fast, they've got a good goalie in Kevin Orleman. And from what we've seen, they're doing what a lot of Coburg teams in the past haven't been able to do. They'll have close games with with the top teams, like I mentioned already. But then when it comes to some of those teams that they're fighting for the fourth spot, that's kind of where they faltered and weren't able to pick up points. Well, you look at the start of the year, they take 2 away from Brooklyn, and they take a game off of Brampton as well. And that's exactly what you need to do when you're fighting for those playoff spots. And that's what they were able to do. Scott Dominy has been a great addition for them. He played a little bit of winter ball in the National Lacrosse League with the Toronto Rock, and he's been a key contributor not only on defense, but in transition. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Kyle Killen, obviously we saw what he did with the Mammoth. And Cam Milligan, another guy who hasn't really gotten a full shot to be a full-time player. He's really proving, what he is worth with that Coburg Kodiak's team, I believe, leading scoring alongside Kyle Killen right now.
Yeah, and sometimes guys like that, Pat, they just need an extra year or two of Senior A lacrosse before they can make that jump. And it's almost like you want to compare it to an NHL defenseman who just sometimes they just take a little bit longer to develop, but they're going to get there. And Cam Milligan's always kind of been one of those top performing guys, but he just seemed to take a little bit longer to get to that next level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the shot. He just needed that shot. He needed more touches, and that's exactly what he's going to get with this Kodiak's team. I mean, you look through the roster, they have so much young, explosive talent on offense, but they really don't have, one individual guy, and they're going to have to play as a unit. And I think that's going to, benefit them, but that's also going to benefit the guys like Kyle Killen, Cam Milligan, even another guy that kind of jumps out at the page early on is Ben French.
Right.
Many people might not really know about him.
Denver, right?
He's a guy. What's that? Sorry.
Denver product, Denver Pioneers. Is that where he plays?
I believe so. I have to look that up.
I want to say
but,
Denver.
He was he was an Oakville Junior B player. Played some Junior A with the Mimico Mountaineers as well, and he's kind of a guy that his brother Joe French as well is on that team, and those are two guys that absolutely just love the game of lacrosse, and I think those are two guys as well. They really hadn't had a chance, to contribute at this level, and now they're getting a chance. They just really, really have impressed me. You saw what happened last night against a top team in Six Nations. They only had 14 runners in that game too, so that's kind of a little bit of an outlier as well. But I would really like to see what happens when they do get full strength. Maybe Chris Kluche when he's not playing in the PLL, which is going to hurt them though because their home games are on Sunday, and as we know with the way the season's structured for the PLL,
right,
they have games on Sundays, but. You throw him into the mix, and boy, this offense is looking good.
Before we move on and jump to junior here, as we speak with Pat Gregoire of the Lacrosse Flash, we're early in the season here, Pat, but let's get you on record right out of the get-go. Who's coming west to represent the MSL in the Mann Cup?
I mean, the easy.
Just don't say Bug Juice, Excelsiors, or whatever.
No, I can't say that. I can't. In a couple of years, hey, I don't know. That Brampton team, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But right now, I think the easy answer is Peterborough, just with, how well-oiled they look.
Okay, hang on. Did you not just say Six Nations like 2 weeks ago?
You didn't let me finish.
Okay.
Easy thing to say.
All right.
But after watching Six Nations and seeing just having Lyle Thompson on the floor at the same time with Cody Jamieson and Randy Stotts, I mean, that is just not fair. And these are guys that they're just going to build more and more chemistry together. Their defense at times kind of looks sporadic and very undisciplined as well. If they can kind of have those reins in on the back end, not take nearly as many penalties as they're doing right now, and allow that offense to kind of be a freewheeling, creative offense. And then, of course, I think the big X factor for me, and they didn't have them last year, and I'm not knocking their goaltenders because I think Doug Jamieson's a tremendous goalie, but having Dylan Ward back there.
Oh, that guy.
Yes.
Yeah, just Dylan Ward.
Yeah, exactly. Having him back there just allows that defense to be just so much more confident, allow them, to get out to hands, play a little more aggressive because they know if they do falter, he's going to be there. He's going to, stand on his head and make some big saves. So I did say that, a little bit of a spicy take, but at the end of the day, let's be real here. It's still Six Nations. They always compete. They're always a top team. And I think that this might be maybe a little bit of I don't want to say a step back for Peterborough, because I still imagine they'll probably be in the Ontario finals and they're going to still probably, take it to 7, and it's a flip of a coin at that point. But those two teams, I think and I see Oakville all the time on Monday nights. They're a great team too. I think they're just a little bit too young to knock off one of those top teams this season. But Major Series lacrosse over the next couple of years, it's going to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, and talk about that Oakville team for just a sec. Andrew Q, Pat, is projected as maybe the top pick heading into the NLL draft. I kind of think it's going back and forth with Clark Peterson right now. You're a lot closer to both. If you're on the clock and you're the New York Riptide coming up here in September, who's going number 1 in the NLL draft?
You know what? I think I might be a little bit biased here because I see him so often, and I called him in the Minto Cup a few years ago as well with Mimico. I'm taking Q. He's unbelievable. What he's able to do with the ball, it's remarkable. He has such good lacrosse IQ. He's got an unbelievable outside shot. Like I said, his vision is unmatched. With that Rock team, he really is the quarterback. He was the quarterback last year of that offense. As a rookie, came in and completely dominated. And a lot of the knock against him was when things start getting tough and rough, he kind of shies away. I felt like he completely got rid of that notion that he had going into last season and going into the playoffs, because he really started, taking the ball to the net, taking hard hits, getting to the dirty areas. And I mean, the guy's a big boy. He's a really athletic kid. I think he's a type of guy that he's not going to be, a complete franchise changer, but he's a guy that you could definitely grab some pieces and build around. I like Peterson though as well. He's a gamer.
I mean, for me, Pat, if you're taking a number one pick, you want him to be that franchise changer, right? Yeah. Like, I know he may not be, but you want him to be, and I think that's the way you got to pick. If you got to look at the guy's ceiling when you're taking a number one pick, and for me, it's Clark Peterson. And Pat, we're a little tight on time here this week, but I do want to get to junior lacrosse because it's been a little wacky out in Ontario so far. I'm seeing some team. I mean, you see a couple of regular teams in Whitby and Orangeville near the top of the standings, but there you look, very top is St. Catharines Athletics at 8-3 in first place. The Burlington Chiefs at 7-2 in third place. And it looks like maybe a bit of a changing of the guard here in junior lacrosse. Is that what we're seeing?
I don't know if necessarily it's the changing of the guard, because I still think at the end of the day, when all the smoke and the dust settles, Orangeville's going to be, near the top. Whitby will be there as well. Obviously, Six Nations is in a little bit of a rebuild, but I think it's just all the other programs are getting very strong as well. Like you mentioned, St. Catharines, they look really, really solid this year. Carter Zavitz is having a great year. Keelan Peelon as well. But for me, with that team, the one guy that jumps out is Latrell Harris. The guy's been playing pro, for a few years now, and he's still. It seems like he's an old man, but he's still playing junior. He's been a big leader for them as well. But for me, I still really do think that, Orangeville and Whitby are the two best teams right now. I think you could put probably Burlington in that mix as well. And I think with Burlington losing to the Beaches last year in the first round, it's added, a big chip on their shoulders.
Right.
And they are coming out even more hungry. They don't want to be embarrassed again. And I think that's kind of been a big motivator for them.
And that's the Danny Mac coaching those guys.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like you said, though, obviously it's great to see some other teams near the top, but I do think at the end of the day, I think Orangeville, Whitby are going to be those two teams that you do see in the finals, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some of those bottom seeds, have an upset like we saw with the Beaches and Burlington last year.
Man, we're going to have to change your name from Smoking Pat Gregoire to Spicy Take Pat Gregoire. Are you done, Bradley? You got any more?
No, I think I'm all spiced out for today, man. I don't know if I can throw out any more heat here.
The spice rack is empty for Pat Gregoire. Hey, that's perfect because we're pretty much out of time anyways this week here, Pat. But we are going to have you back at least every second week, if not every week, and get a quick check-in. What's happening in the East, and you'll keep us updated all summer long, man. And we look forward to it here on Lacrosse Classified. Welcome to the team.
Oh, thanks, boys. I'm super happy for it. It's going to be a fun summer, and I'll head over to the store. I'll see if I can grab some more spice for next.
Yeah, and
next
the other thing before we let you go, and I don't want to ruin the surprise. And Brad and I are going to talk about this. I know your boy Jenner there did like a little rap song for your intro on OTCB. Well, we got a guy out here in BC by the name of Sakani Baker that likes to put some pretty gangster beats together. So Brad and I might just step into the old TSN studio, lay down a track, and pump something out for a Pat Gregoire intro that might just blow that other rap song out of the water. Just saying. Just saying.
I'm always down for a good rap battle, you know.
Okay.
I'm in for it.
All right. You heard it. That was Pat Gregoire of the Lacrosse Flash, also the head coach of the Ironheads Junior B lacrosse team. How are your Ironheads doing before we let you go?
Oh, you know what? We're doing well right now. You know, we actually just picked up our 12th win of the season. We're starting to roll. We still have a little more to give right now. I think we're sitting in 4th in the conference. So
okay.
A couple more games to go in the regular season, and we'll see what we do in the playoffs. We're hoping to win a round for the first time in franchise history.
Playoffs. That's what matters. Good luck, Pat. We will talk to you soon here on Lacrosse Classified. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Talk soon.
All right. That was spicy take Pat Gregoire right there. And that was good.
He was going number 1, and Six Nations is coming west.
There you go. Those are two really spicy takes. Absolutely. One more break to come here on Lax Class, Bradley. And then it's time. You know it. You're in some trouble right out of the hole here, Bradley. On the other side, it's Stampede Tax. Who you got? On the Lax Class, on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Associated Labels and Packaging is in the business of creating first impressions. They'll help you reflect your company values accurately by offering solutions that fit your product needs. With the latest in printing technology and over 35 years of experience, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit for your company to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Jesse King of the Calgary Roughnecks and Victoria Shamrocks. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars, growing the game one podcast at a time.
All right, welcome back to Lacrosse Classified. Lax Class, you heard it right there from our friends at Associated Labels and Packaging. They create first impressions. I mentioned those Bantam Adnecks winning the gold medal at the Trevor Wingrove Memorial Tournament. Well, the boss there at Associated Labels and Packaging, Sean Ashworth, his boy, a member of that team, now a gold medalist for the big Wingrove Memorial Tournament. Brad, fans don't know this, but I'm just going to tell them anyways, because podcast, there's really no rules when it comes to a podcast. You had to get some work done around the office. I had to get a workout in around the gym, so we just took a little break for a couple hours, and now we're back for the fourth quarter here, if you will, on Lax Class.
If we seem a little bit more energized than we did in segments 1, 2, and 3, it's because we've literally had lunch and you've had workouts and I've had fun times at work.
I'm actually a little hangry. I haven't had my lunch yet.
We're caffeinated, and one thing you got to mention there too is U.S. Box Club boys picking up some medals at that Wingrove tournament over the weekend too, and that's pretty historical climb for the U.S. Box Club boys who have been coming up north for 3 or 4 years now and paying a lot of dues, and the fruits of some of that labor starting to pay off. So it's nice to see some of the American teams coming up and winning medals and winning games now against tough Canadian competition. That's a nice trend.
Yeah, like I know that the Bantam guys there, the USA Boxer team beat Wanda Fuca, which is no easy feat to get into the final, and I think the midgets actually won a gold medal. Benny Prepchuk was out here, former junior Laker standout, NLLer as well. One of the first guys ever to go with the high socks, Ben Prepchuk, back in his day.
I love the high socks look. Always did. I toyed with that for a while, more so in field than in box.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. But
keeps the shins warm when you're playing. But that it just goes to show U.S. Boxer what good coaching and what a strategy from the youngest levels to the oldest levels, like we were talking about earlier with the Coquitlam Adnac program. There's a plan in place and there's good coaching at all levels, and that's what has helped them blossom. Yeah,
Shaden Santos doing it right down there in Cali. Speaking of coaches, we should get a quick shout out to Matt Brown, good friend of the show. Matt Brown, coach at Denver University. He spent time with Team Canada men's team, their U19. He's going to be the head coach of the U19 Team Canada team at their next World Championships. Him and Dan Carey hooking up over there for that bench on Team Canada. So congratulations to Dan Carey and Matt Brown on their anointment. Let's get into it here, Bradley. It's time for Who You Got, presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear. Complete source for boots. Huge selection of Cowboy, Bluntstone, CSA-approved boots. They ship Canada-wide. You know this by now. Shopping online, still shopping local. It was country night out at the Langley Event Center on Saturday as they took on the Timbermen. I know a bunch of the boys took off to Gabby's after the big game. I steered clear. But it was a fun time. Good crowd out there. I didn't mind the 5 o'clock Saturday night start from the LEC. It was kind of good.
No, I like an early start too. I like the 7 o'clock starts at the Palace on Sunday. You had a 6 o'clock game in Maple Ridge on Sunday. It's nice to get a jump start on your evening and then still have some night after the games are over.
Absolutely. So let's do this here. Last week we picked 5 games, 1 game from each major league here in Canada. BC and Ontario Junior, BC and Ontario Senior, and the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League in Alberta/Saskatchewan. Now, Brad, I went 500. 1 game actually ended up in a tie, so that just kind of counted as a push. So on the other 4 games, I went 2-2. You, on the other hand, did...
I made history.
Yeah, you did.
Making
Not good history.
Making lacrosse classified history. I am on the A side of history. That's what I've always wanted, whether good or bad. The first offer, I believe, in lacrosse classified history is I went 0-4-1.
Yeah.
And like I did state before last week, it's the summertime. It's rolling dice for the most part.
And how about Schemenauer jumping all over you?
There's only one way up. There's only one way to go from here. Hopefully I turn things around this week.
You can't do much. I guess you could go 0-5 if there's not a tie. But let's not think like that. And how about Schemenauer? He's coming at you pretty quick after week 1. He's agreed to actually keep score for us here at Bradley because he's the numbers guy. He'll get the spreadsheet out. He's got all the picks down. But the deal is, for him doing that, he gets to kind of pick the punishment at the end of the year here for whoever doesn't win summertime, who he got.
Yeah, I'm a little frightened at that prospect, too, after the chirping over the first week. Right?
First week, just settle down.
5 games in.
I know.
Slow it down. But he must have something terribly embarrassing planned for September.
I think him and Kevin at Stampede are going to get together. They're going to collaborate and come up with something good. We're going to give away some Thunder tickets. You want to do that now, or let's just do it now? I'm thinking something simple here. If you're listening to the podcast, you're local here in the Lower Mainland, and you can make it out to the Thunder game on Wednesday evening against Maple Ridge. Give you away a pair of tickets here, courtesy of Stampede Tack and Western Wear. All you got to do is tweet at me what the score was between Nanaimo and Langley on Saturday. Pretty simple. If you didn't watch the game, WLacrosse.com is where you can find the score. First person to hear this and tweet me the score of the game between Nanaimo and Langley, you got to be able to make it to the Langley Event Center on Wednesday night. We'll get yourself a pair of free tickets to the Thunder game at PXP, the number 4 Sports is where you can do that. Okay, Brad, 5 new games on the docket. I've picked the games, but you have these in front of you, correct?
You can put me on the spot like that? Yeah,
because you were hosting here.
And you won. Oh, okay, loser hosts.
Yes, he forces...
because the winner gets to have the first choice in the games that they pick.
No. I mean, we can collaborate on picking the games of the week, and I think I did a pretty good job of it. But the advantage to going second is, first off, you get to say who you got, which is the fun part. And the second is you get to see who I pick first, and you can gauge your pick going second on whether you want to take the same team or the opposite team of me.
Right.
It's an advantage to go last because you get to say who you got and you get to pick second.
Sounds good.
Do you have the list of games in front of you?
I do.
Let's start from the bottom and work our way up to the top.
Okay, we will start with the Rocky Mountain Junior A Lacrosse League. We've got the 3-1 Mounties versus the 5-3 SWAT on Saturday night. Who you got?
Yes, I like it.
With 2 T's.
Yes.
Who you got with 2 T's?
And mind you, yes, with 2 T's. For fans that don't know, Elliot, 2 T's in it. Everybody's using the hashtag Who You Got. We've deciphered and separated ourselves from the pack by using 2 T's in Who You Got. So when you're hashtagging us, make sure you put 2 T's. Not only in Elliot, but in Got Now as well. We are recording here on Monday. I put this list together on Sunday. I don't know what you just said there, but the SWAT are 6-3. Mounties are now 3-2. Is that what you said?
Okay, so no, they've each played a game since you wrote me this email. So
okay.
I have Mounties 3-1, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Anyways, they're playing this weekend, Saturday night. Who you got?
I'm gonna take my SWAT boys. Lane Harushka been playing well in goal for those SWAT guys. They're looking for players to pick up, as are the Miners, I hear, to kind of bolster their lineup for a stretch run in Alberta. Now just have to beat out 3 other teams to get to the Minto Cup. But SWAT seem to be the class of the league here so far. How cool would it be to see Saskatchewan in the Minto Cup, Bradley? Give me the SWAT over the Mounties.
That would be absolutely unreal, and we hopefully do get some new blood. It'd be even cool to see Edmonton back in it. It's been a minute since we've seen those boys, but I will take the Mounties in this one.
Okay. You're sure about that?
I'm sure about that. Let's make it happen, Mounties. Let's go.
Okay. I got the SWAT. You got the Mounties.
Ontario Junior A Lacrosse League.
Mm-hmm.
You just heard Pat Gregoire talk about that league a little bit, who he thinks are some of his front runners. But we've got Orangeville and Burlington going head-to-head this week.
That's a good game.
Who you got?
I like it. 7-1 Orange. 7-1 after that tie with Whitby. 7-2 Burlington. This is a real enticing game here. Pat Gregoire thinks Orangeville is the class of the league. I think Burlington. I'm gonna go against the grain here. I'm gonna take the Chiefs of Burlington to maybe hand one to Orangeville here. I think they're due.
I will take the Hornheads again. I took them last week. They disappointed me with the tie. Time for redemption from Orangeville to get me back in the win column here. Orangeville over Burlington.
Okay. 2 different picks right out the gate here. 3 games to go, Brad.
This one is an interesting one. BC Junior A Lacrosse League. Sunday, we got to go almost a full week before we see this game play out. Mm-hmm. But the 9-4 Victoria Shamrocks and the 7-4 New Westminster Salmon Bellies, both teams that are going to be scrapping for that. Well, those 2 teams could finish anywhere from probably 2nd to 4th, and a win this weekend will go a long way to determining that. Victoria and New West, who you got?
Oh, New West has really started to play better after a shaky start to the season here. Shamrocks do have a game on Tuesday against Nanaimo, as do the Salmon Bellies. They play Poco at home on Tuesday. Before those 2 teams clash on the Sunday. So those records may change. Well, they will change a little bit, as both will play a game before our marquee Sunday matchup. I don't think that's going to change my mind on anything here. This game's going to go down at Queen's Park Arena. Shamrock's making the trip over. I think Richie Catton's kind of got that ship turned around a little bit there for the Fish. I'm going to go with the home team here. Reluctantly with the home team, Brad, but I'm going to take the Junior Bellies to beat the Shamrocks.
Based on your reluctancy, I'm going to flip the script and go with the Victoria Shamrocks on the road in Queen's Park. They're due to. They want to fight. They want that home playoff berth. They think they could be a second-place team this season. I think they can, too. Give me the Shamrocks in New West on Sunday.
Man, oh, man. This hole is either going to get covered up or it's going to get really deep here after week 2, Brad. 3 games, 3 different picks so far with 2 games to go.
To the major series we go.
Let's go.
Peterborough Lakers 4-0 against the 3-1 Coburg Kodiaks on Thursday evening. Who you got? You gonna laugh every time?
I think I might. I kind of miss Evan saying it the way he said it was good for a laugh. But I'm appreciating your efforts on who you got here, Brad. Can Coburg shock the world and beat the Peterborough Lakers? That is the question. I'm not so sure they can. Give me the Lake Show. I just think they're just too good. Peterborough, I think, is just a better team. Then Coburg, who's off to a nice start here, and lots of young talent on the come up, but they're not quite at the Lakers level yet, in my estimation. Give me Peterborough.
No, I agree with Pat Gregoire before that too. They're in that sort of second class. They're going to get their wins and their hay against the Oakvilles and the Brooklyns and the Bramptons, but I don't think they have enough to beat the Peterborough Lakers quite yet. We'll take the same on this one. Peterborough Lakers over Coburg this week.
Book it.
Okay, last but certainly not least, right in our own backyard here in the WLA, we've got the Friday Nighter.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria Shamrocks will host the New Westminster Salmon Bellies. 3-2 Bellies. Should be the 3-1 Bellies after that disqualified game.
Yes.
And the Shamrocks, who are struggling mighty right now, 2-3 for the Victoria Shamrocks, but they're at home at the Q on Friday night against the Bellies. Jake Elliott, who you got?
This game, Brad, is a tough one to pick here because you're right. Victoria is completely underachieved out of the gates here. A lot of different pieces in and out of their lineup. A lot of guys were missing on Sunday night in Maple Ridge. Like a good chunk of good players were out of their lineup. Friday night is kind of Victoria's home night. They're going to be, I think, a full stacked roster there on Friday for the Rocks. But New West is playing very well over the last couple of games. Kevin Crowley has made a difference. I'm not sure the Big Cat's going to stick around for the Bellies for this Friday night's game. I don't know that or not. Will Logan Schuss be back? Is Mitch Jones playing any road games this year? I don't know. So with all that being said, I think it's time for Victoria to get off the schneid here and get on a run a little bit. So give me the Shamrocks at home to beat the Bellies.
I will take the Road Warrior New Westminster Salmon Bellies Friday night. Again, to mix things up, I'm going to get out of this hole or I'm going to get buried into this hole. But New West is, they're on fire. They've got some great pieces in there that are rounding into form. Austin Shanks is playing fantastic lacrosse. Bouquet is going to give them a shot. And I still think that Victoria back end needs to shore things up. You might get a full lineup. You might get Reese Dutch's return from Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take the Bellies on the road in this one.
Okay. You heard it here, fans. 4 out of the 5 games differentiating picks. And this is going to be a real interesting week 2 in who you got. Now, we'll figure this out, I think, after this episode, Brad, but get your thinking cap on here a little bit. Get your straw country thinking hat on here a little bit because Stampede Tack has told us that they're going to start giving away some prizes here. We got to figure out a way on Lax Class on how we can come up with some sort of contest here to give away prizes. You got anything on the burner?
Well, I'd like some participation. Like, if you guys have, anybody listening, if you guys have ideas for report cards, if you want to throw anybody under the bus or onto the bus during the week, you can hit us up on Twitter at Brad Chall, CHALL, at PXP for Sports. Give us a report card. If you're at a Junior A game in Ontario or if you're at a Junior A game in BC and you see a fantastic performance, hit us up on Twitter. Hey, Brad. Hey, Jake. Just saw a goaltender have a 3-goal against performance in Ontario or something. Like, that's an A performance. Hashtag Lax Class report cards or something. We'll figure out the hashtag.
Yeah, so maybe
get us involved. I want to get some people contributing to the report cards. Maybe we float you guys a cowboy hat for participating.
I like that. So maybe the best report card submission throughout the week gets read on the air and they win a prize. But we got to use the hashtag. We'll figure out the hashtag. As we're doing this on the fly. This is terrible podcasting right now. We should have planned this out a little better, Bradley. But anyways, thanks to Stampede Tack, as they're going to start giving away some prizes. Don't forget about those Thunder tickets. Just tweet at me the score from Saturday night. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we get on our way here, Bradley?
I think we summed up a lot. It's been a slice. Spending another hour and change with you. Happy to have Pat Gregoire back on the show. And you're back in the barns this week. I've got a couple weeks off before my next WLA game, but stay in touch on Twitter at Brad Chow on PXP for Sports. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Yeah, you bet. Big thanks to Pat Gregoire and to Pete Tellis for coming on the program. Our fabulous sponsors, of course, and Stampede Tack and Western Wear, Pure Vita Labs, Associated Labels and Packaging, and our title sponsor here on Lax Class, Extreme Threads. Make sure you're supporting those fine folks. Brad mentioned it. At Brad Shell, at PXP for Sports. The show is at Lax Class. If you haven't done it by now, shame on you. But just subscribe to the podcast wherever you find your podcast. Search Lacrosse All-Stars. You will find Lacrosse Classified, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, iTunes, you name it. We are there. Gets delivered to your phone every single week. Tuesdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network is when we release this show every single week. But for now, we got to go. For the fastest game on 2 feet and for the creator, thanks for listening to Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.